My takeaway on this is Chris Paul looked worn down. Jrue Holiday's probably 3 to 4 inches taller, 30 pounds heavier. He's a big physical player. Mike Budenholzer's not known for adjustments, but putting Jrue Holiday on Chris Paul, it did look like Chris Paul was worn out last night. Your thoughts?
No question. There's a reason that Jrue Holiday is a first-team all-defensive selection this year, along with Giannis Antetokounmpo. And you're exactly right. It's the physicality. It's the willingness to fight over screens. He's made everything hard on Khris, and as a result, it has worn him down. And it's really the Achilles heel of this Phoenix Suns team, because if Chris Paul is not getting his and creating for others, he's really the only playmaker that they have that makes things easier for everybody else, particularly DeAndre Ayton. Ayton's ability to be effective and efficient is hurt in a major way when Chris Paul is having to fight just to protect the ball, just to be able to score. Until last night, Chris Paul has still shot the ball well in the mid-range, has not shot it particularly well from long range. But Jrue Holiday it's why I refuse any Jrue Holiday slander. Yes, he was 4 for 20 last night. Yes, he's had 3 games where he has not shot well in this series. But since taking over the number 1 assignment on Chris Paul, he has been the primary defender and the primary reason that Chris Paul has struggled, and as a result, so have the Suns.
There's great shooters like Dame or Steph Curry, and then there are guys that are hot and cold like Chris Middleton. And, last night he was bad early, great late. He is really on this roster of tough guys, thick guys, bruising guys. He's their best shooter. What do you make of last night and Middleton as a trustworthy player in the next 3 games?
It's pretty simple, actually, and it's why I still favor the Bucks to win this series, even though 2 of the next 3 are in Phoenix. And it's because if you're going to give me Khris Middleton and Giannis Antetokounmpo playing pick and roll against Mikal Bridges and DeAndre Ayton, I better win that matchup. I like Mikal Bridges. I think he's a good young player. But this is his first time in the playoffs. And the threat of Giannis as the roller in pick and roll is creating opportunities for Khris Middleton that a good shooter, scorer should make consistently. So they really this is the matchup. And versus Chris Paul and DeAndre Ayton against Jrue Holiday and Giannis Antetokounmpo, 2 first-team all-defensive players. I don't want to oversimplify this series, but it really comes down to that. The Bucks 2-man game is an experienced one playing against a relatively inexperienced one, and they're getting it done, versus the 2-man game for the Suns, with Chris Paul being compromised by Jrue Holiday. The matchups simply don't work for the Suns if it comes down to the last minute and in clutch scoring. So. Honestly, that's what we saw last night. Middleton did what he should do against someone like Mikal Bridges and with Giannis Antetokounmpo as his running mate.
It's funny. So I picked Milwaukee. We have it on tape to win the whole thing. Even though every series they're in, I fall out of love with Milwaukee because they don't make anything look easy. They trailed by 7 late. Yep. I mean, the Phoenix had 1 guy hitting shots. Crowder couldn't hit. Chris Paul was awful. They led by 7 late. And I'm like, how is this game close? And there is and I picked Milwaukee, and I said there's 2 reasons. One, there's no pressure now. We've dismissed them. They can't win. The second thing is their players mostly in their careers don't get hurt. Everybody else's does. But I do look at Milwaukee, and here's my big concern. Last night is what we're going to see over the next 3 games. And I don't trust Milwaukee at the line, and Chris Paul and Jay Crowder are great playoff free throw shooters. So that to me is a huge. I mean, Crowder's great. Crowder's shooting 86% at the line. That's significantly better than he shot in the regular season at the line, and he was a good free throw shooter in the regular season. Are you concerned about, speaking of simplicity, I don't trust the Bucks at the free throw line late?
Yeah, well, look, this is what the Bucks do. You go into the series, and you just saw them in the last series, and you're thinking, okay, they found their stride. And then they begin the series, and you go, wait a minute, what happened to the Bucks that I just saw? Like, why did they start every series? They scare the hell out of you the first 2 games of every series. And they're not an efficient team. And they do run hot and cold. There's just a couple things that they have in this series that works to their benefit that allows them to be inefficient. And the number one thing is this vast advantage on the offensive glass.
Yeah.
I think the difference was 17-5 in last night's game. They've won the offensive rebounding. They've had the offensive rebounding advantage every single game, sometimes by double digits. That just gives you more opportunities to score. So you don't have to shoot as well. You're making Phoenix play defense at least 7-8 seconds longer for 15, 16 possessions every single game. And so you don't necessarily have to shoot well, but you're going to get more opportunities to score. And chances are when you offensive rebound, you're right there for a putback, so your percentage and your opportunity to score is going to go up. So that's why, that's what counteracts the fact that, you do have a Giannis Antetokounmpo going to the free throw line, and that could potentially be problematic. But the other part is that Jay Crowder, like most every other piece on this team other than Devin Booker, relies on Chris Paul to create his opportunities. And when Chris Paul is just fighting not to lose the ball because of the pressure that Jrue Holiday is putting on him, then that makes all the difference in the world. Suddenly, Jay Crowder, yes, had 15 last night, but went, 3 for 9, didn't shoot a high percentage. Jay Crowder is great, veteran player. He's going to do what is going to take advantage of the opportunities you present him. But Chris Paul is really the guy who makes everything happen, and he's just trying to make it happen for himself right now.
Only 90 seconds left, but Rick, it is interesting. When you watch Chris Paul last night and he looks old, we've discussed this on this show for 2 to 3 weeks now. I'm not giving him a 4-year deal. I'm reluctant to give him a 3-year deal. It's lightning in a bottle. It works perfectly for this team and this coach in this moment. But I watched that last night, and I think Robert Sarver's watching that thinking, I don't know if I want to write a $120 million check, right?
Yeah. No, look, and you're right at the nexus, because I believe that it's going to be, the fight is going to be 2-year deal. Is it a 3rd-year player option or team option? And how much are you going to load up on the first 2 years? And I dare say that whether they win or lose this series is going to have an influence on the attractiveness of just exactly how much you pay him.
Right.
But you're going to have to eat at least a year. Yeah. It's a lot easier to eat a big number on a 3rd year if it means that you won a title. You'll sacrifice that for a title. If you're the runner-up, it's a lot harder to swallow that.
No, it's a very good point. And it's, listen, we got to be honest about this. It's a salary cap sport. You want to pay people for what they'll do, not what they did. And with Chris Paul, you watched last night and you're like, that's old furniture right there. Like that is not raising in value. Ric Bucher, great stuff. Thanks, Rick. Appreciate it. Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from The Herd, or go watch a few segments from other shows on FS1.